Hello everybody and welcome back, where today we're going to be tackling Retropolis 2. I'm a little late to the party since I was a bit under the weather. I'm feeling a bit better now, so I managed to play through Retropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye on PSVR 2 that came out a couple days ago to give you my thoughts on it. Now, I'm a player who hasn't played the original Retropolis, so I had no preconceptions about what this game might really look like. I'd seen some gameplay putting together our PSVR 2 games of the month videos where this game cropped up twice. But ultimately, I had zero expectations, and going in, I was pleasantly surprised. Retropolis 2 is a fun point-and-click adventure with some decent writing, some okay voice acting, some pretty ingenious uses of the PSVR 2 features, some really fun puzzles that even an idiot like me could enjoy, and a story that kept me genuinely interested. But before we dive into the details, if you do enjoy today's video, just feel free to like and sub. We're on our way to 10k, and it'd be amazing if we could get there anytime soon. Anyway, let's talk Retropolis 2. The game is set in a sort of alternate robot Earth, and mostly set in Retropolis, the city that the game gets its namesake from. It runs for a couple of hours over 4 different chapters, but you're seeing mostly gameplay from the first one since the game is very story intensive and puzzle intensive, and I don't want to spoil a load of stuff past the first chapter. So don't worry, there's a lot more variety in terms of where you go, who you talk to, and what you see compared to what you're just seeing in this video. You play as a private investigator, retired policeman, called Philip, whose lover goes missing, and you've basically got to find out where she went, who's taken her, and work with and against the police in certain cases to figure out puzzles and essentially get her out of the situation that she will find herself in, if she is even alive. Visually, Retropolis pleasantly surprised me. It's incredibly sharp in the headset, there's not really much aliasing at all on objects, the colours pop beautifully, and while the art style of course is limited by budget, they've again done it in that classic indie way that I see very often, which is a very good thing, where you weave that budget into your art style and create something that sure might be limited by scope technically, but you've used the art style to kind of compensate for that, so the player still feels like they're in a polished environment and game, and that's exactly how this feels. The gameplay loop of Retropolis is a point-and-click adventure, essentially. You have extending arms that kind of fly away on springs and come back to you when you want them to pick up items and interact with the world, and most of the places that you find yourself in don't offer you too much freedom of movement, other than just going through doors or up ladders, for example. You will solve puzzles in each environment and it'll lead you on to the next while revealing story elements, and that's essentially the entire game in terms of gameplay. Are the puzzles any good though? I found them to be pretty solid, to be honest, and quite easy to follow, but they felt rewarding for a player like me who usually doesn't enjoy puzzles that much. I think it's just because they were narrative driven in terms of what I was led to do, and none of them really felt like they were out of the blue, that I just enjoyed their place and I felt like they were validated in the story. You'll do all sorts like merging objects, creating and pulling levers, pressing different buttons and twisting different dials and knobs, all the stuff you'd expect, and the haptics go off wonderfully each time you do any of these things. As you progress through the story as well, you get a load of dialogue choices in conversations, more than I really expected there to be, and the voice acting and the writing is pretty good. The voice acting can go from okay line deliveries to pretty damn good, while the writing stays consistently decent all the way through, in my opinion. It's very film noir-like in terms of the character that you're playing as well, as Philip kind of narrates everything that you go through, and I did quite enjoy that, although this won't appeal to absolutely everybody. In the same way that a couple weeks ago I said Sushi Ben was an amazing game that I really enjoyed, it's not going to be for everybody. It's a similar case here, where I didn't quite enjoy Retropolis 2 the same way that I did Sushi Ben, but I understand somebody latching onto it in the same way that I did with Sushi Ben. What I did latch onto though was the animation and visual style of the game in terms of how everything moved and interacted. The robots have a sort of stop motion-y look to them in the way they move, which I really loved. My basis in animation is stop motion animation. I've been doing it for almost a decade now, and I just love seeing that medium brought into other mediums, and it works great here. My final big positive before I get into a couple of other negatives that I found with the game is that the soundtrack is pretty wonderful. A lot of jazz, a lot of blues, it really fits the tone, and I'm pretty sure all of it is bespoke made for the game. It's not like royalty free or anything, which is always appreciated. Not that there's anything bad about an indie dev using royalty free music, but you can tell that this has been crafted for the game, and it is just lovely to listen to. Well, I did really like mostly everything about Retropolis 2. There are a couple caveats in here. One is the length, like I mentioned earlier. It's not that long of a game, and to be honest, that doesn't usually bother me, but I did find myself wanting more in terms of runtime because I did enjoy my time in this world, and if they do a sequel, I'd happily eat it up, is what I'm saying. Some of the dialogue was a little hard to hear as well. I wanted to play with subtitles off so I could keep the recording in this video a little cleaner, and in some moments it did feel like the balancing was a little off, and there's no options in the menus to really turn that up or down with the music or the audio, which I wish there were those accessibility options for the player. In terms of accessibility options as well, there's only click turning, and what's weird is I feel like in the starting menu I was smooth turning, and then once I got into the game I was just click turning, and you can't turn off snap turning at all. It is just a set thing. That is kind of not really a big worry in terms of a game like this because you're not moving around a lot, it's just you stuck in this one location most of the time. But again, I do appreciate having those accessibility options, and those just unfortunately aren't here. Some of the dialogue is a little repetitive as well, not in terms of the writing style, but literally when you click on some objects to try and solve puzzles and get the object wrong, your main character Philip will repeat the same thing over and over again, and that can get a little repetitive and dull, but if you're smarter than I am, which you probably are, you'll figure out the puzzles faster and won't really hear this that often. But yeah, some dialogue is reused in certain sections when you get guesses wrong in certain scenarios. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Retropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye. I did actually really enjoy this one, surprisingly, and it's a type of VR game that I haven't really played before, a point and click style adventure with these detective elements. If you played the game, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. If not, tell me if you think it looks good from the gameplay and my thoughts in this video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to our patrons and YouTube members, Luke Bentley, Phil Irving, Hazit Mirza, Ace Gamer, Hippie Pickle, Jin007, A License to Chill, Sun WTF, Piosco, and Fat Controllers. Thank you all for watching once again, and I'll see you all in the next one.